Hi everyone, welcome to the Climber Conversations Podcast, episode 3. You would have seen Sophia running the show for the last 2 episodes, and I thought I would flip it around for this episode and get
Thanks,
to know
Guy.
Sophia a little bit better. Sophia, you are someone that I've hired out of university through an internship. You've worked at Clima for how long now?
Almost a year now.
Almost a year.
Yeah,
Wow, that
I know,
went
time
quick.
flies.
That went really quick. And you actually just went full time. So obviously, congratulations
Thank you.
for getting through and graduating. Do you want to tell everyone what you graduated in?
Yeah,
to start
definitely. So hey everyone, I'm Sophia. So I just graduated from a bachelor in Environmental Biotechnology. And
What does that mean?
Yeah, that's a great question. See, it's hard to explain though. So biotechnology is basically the use of living organisms for the industry. So that can be, there are 2 main areas that you can focus on. So it can either be medical, so for example, vaccines, that's a perfect example. And then it can also be environmental. So I did environmental biotechnology, which is basically how to use microorganisms for the production of bioplastics or any sustainable products. So yeah, very interesting.
And when you started, obviously, I told you that we were interested in hiring in for the carbon consultancy role, and also that going out and seeing projects was part of what I wanted you to do. And when I mentioned those 2 things, was there one thing over the other that resonated more? Like, obviously, one of the first things you did was started showing me pictures of furry little animals, which you've helped in the past.
Yeah.
Do you want to tell us about your experience in both the sort of roles that you've done?
Yeah, definitely.
The people you've met, and where you'd like it to go in the future.
Yeah, definitely. So when we had that conversation, obviously there were a few things that resonated. So first one, when you start talking about carbon, I gotta admit, I had a few subjects related to carbon markets at uni, but it was a totally new space for me. Like, I didn't know much about it. I got to admit, a quite negative perspective on carbon offsetting that obviously has completely changed now. And then when you talk about these projects, I was actually really interesting because at uni, I did some field trips where we did biodiversity surveys, just like field work, which I love. And so I definitely was interested of seeing how we can combine both of them to create a better future. So far it's been a great journey. I actually met a lot of people who I really admire. Just the other day, I met these people that are doing a seaweed project in the ocean, and like taking care of the reef, and all the sort of people that are doing great things in the space, which is really inspiring. And obviously, learning from you and the climate team, it's been great. The way I see it going in the future. Well, I just love it. I think just keep learning. And
Can I ask you a question? I guess it's look, I'm 49 years old. I got into this because I loved it, but taking people on that journey is often, it could be for various reasons. Can we sort of dig into your generation, your demographic, people at uni? How do they actually feel? Because we hear a lot of talk about, it really matters to the young people. Tell me if it does.
It does.
In all honesty, if there was 100 people in a room, how many will make a decision around what they purchase or how they interact with a brand based on climate, from your perspective?
Yeah. No, definitely. I think it definitely matters. So for those who don't know, I'm just 21-year-old. So yeah, I think the way I see it with my generation is that it's either sustainable or, sourced from sustainable materials, or otherwise it's not worth buying it.
Okay.
And it's simple as that, because I think there's been a lot more awareness about what's happening in the world. We're learning about climate change, and I think it's not only learning but actually seeing the effects of climate change. So you've got obviously floods, as you may tell because of my accent. I'm not from Australia, I'm from Mexico, so developing country, and I've seen the climate change impacts there especially. So just recently we had a massive hurricane. I think it turned into Category 5 hurricane in just 2 days. So I think seeing all those changes has made us realize that we gotta act now.
Yeah.
And we're not only about, I'm not saying just us acting about it, but also pushing companies to be aware, and pushing companies to be responsible for their emissions. If you're emitting, then you've got to be responsible for that. So definitely it's been a big shift.
That's great to hear, because it's, we do hear it, but it's always also nice to hear it from, the person's mouth as well. Where do you see the most questions coming up from companies? When you're talking to them, they're coming to you confused. There's a whole lot in the space. What's the main questions that they're really coming to you with? Because, you're 21, but you know what you're talking about. And do you perceive that it's easy for them to ask questions, or do you find that they're waiting for you to tell them before they want to ask the questions around this space in particular?
Yeah. So that's a tricky question. I think sometimes they don't know what questions to ask.
Okay.
They don't have enough information to ask those questions, but they do want to know about it. So I think it's a combination of both, of you telling them or, educating them in the space, but also encourage them to ask questions and you answer those questions. I think the most frequent ones that I get, it's obviously, how do I start? Like, that's a big one. Like, I want to do it. Like, I want to be conscious. I don't know where to start. And it's like, okay, simple. Just set a baseline, measure your carbon footprint, see where you can start. And then we'll work from them a plan to reduce your emissions. Then you can invest in these offset projects to, that have co-benefits and support biodiversity. So yeah, I think that's the main question usually, like, how do I start? That it's obviously such a overwhelming process, like at first, for people that don't know about it. So also, getting the right people in the journey is important. I think that's the main one. And apart from that, obviously, if we get into carbon, what's carbon? Like, how does it work?
Yeah.
I don't understand. I think it's easier for people to understand trees.
Yep.
Or like, cars off the road. But when you put when you say a ton of carbon, they just...
Yeah, they have no idea. And for the listeners, actually, I'll tell you, there's some interesting sort of concepts of a ton of carbon, but it's too big. So 1 kilogram of carbon is as big as a Swiss ball.
Yeah.
50 grams of carbon is as big as a party balloon. So capturing the stuff is easy. Very hard, sorry. Capturing is very hard, but emitting the stuff is very easy. It's great to have people like Sophia working with us to help everyone get on that journey. And what we really are here is about making everyone feel welcome to ask those questions, to get on the journey, to buy into what we're trying to do here, which is educate everyone at scale.
Yeah.
And Sophia, it's great having you on the team.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me.
And I think in the next episode, you'll be interviewing me again.
We're going back and forward.
But it's great to have someone with your academic background, your passion, and frankly your personality with the team, and we love having you around. So thanks for
Guy.
joining us today.
Thanks, Guy.
Thanks.
See you.